Today I was listening to Thomas talk to some of the conclave members over the phones, and let me tell you, Thomas was really on a rant, and it was so good, and I felt the same way. In fact, it came to mind a phrase that the original Thomas Paine, not our anonymous patriot Thomas Paine, said, which was lead, follow, or get out of the way. And Thomas, that is what I feel about our Attorney General. He's been on the job now for almost a year, and I want to see people indicted. I want to see some action from his office. I feel the way that you guys were talking on the phone today. Don't hold back. What's on your mind about Jeff Sessions?
Should I keep the explicatives out? Or,
well, you do whatever you want to,
okay.
But it's my frustration. You know, a lot of us, and I've been reading the comments on our other YouTubes, we've been patient. We've given him the benefit of the doubt since he was there with Trump from the beginning, but we're wondering what's going on with him. Like the Huma Abedin situation, she had classified emails on her computer and she gave them to her husband. What the... Jeff Sessions needs to show us what he has and do something about this. This cannot be swept away like everything else. I'm going to be watching to see what he does with Miss Huma Abedin. So anyway, I don't want this show to be about Betsy. Thomas, you're the brighter and the more inquisitive one. Go ahead.
That is not true. I just bring the voice of the anonymous patriots, so I got a lot of people standing behind what I say, and they make sure that what I say is correct. So, checking with the conclave this morning, we have decided beyond a shadow of a doubt that what has really happened is Trump has decided that Jeff Sessions has been so neutralized by the continuous and pathetic attempts to overthrow his regime that he basically is doing a workaround. There's one thing that Sessions has done that was good, and that was an evil thing, and that's that he allowed the forfeiture of assets without conviction. Now Trump has put that as a key factor in his new executive order, which is his work around Jeff Sessions. Someone needs to show Jeff Sessions the exit. He needs to go, and we need to put someone in there who actually has a pair, because he is weak. He's gone after programs that already existed, like going after MS-13 and the pedophilia sweeps in the country and so on and so forth. Trump has enhanced them times 100. That had nothing to do with him. We know that the decisions...
him being Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions has done actually nothing when it comes down to it. And Trump had to write an executive order to go around him and name 13 criminals who he's going to seize or freeze, but I say seize because the asset forfeiture law that was then rescinded now makes it possible that any time that the United States government wants, they can seize anybody's assets. Now,
that you say that, but one of our listeners said, well, it seems to me that you guys are advocating that we not be constitutional in the way that we, use this asset forfeiture law. And I said, well, not really. Obama has put a lot of things in place already, and Sessions put this in place, and Trump is using this. I certainly hope we can get back to the rule of law in this country.
Well, that's what it's all about. We laugh at it because Trump has been empowered by the enemy, and he now has these extraordinary powers. So the executive order, let me explain that. It is quite standard, and Obama did it a number of times, where they go after individuals and or companies, and they seize or freeze their assets both in this country and outside of this country. Effectively, what happens then is that company, if they don't have enough assets and resources, they simply crumble and die. They don't even have to be indicted or convicted. They don't have to be in this country, you see. So when the 13 were named and their assets were seized, they're very, very upset. Do you see any one of them except the richest one, who is the most corrupt, the diamond miner?
Dan Getzler.
Dan Getzler. He's upset about it, but then he's been fighting in cases with even George Soros and others over his diamond mines in Africa, gold, and all the theft of resources from Africa that he's been doing. He's the only one, and what has he said? Peep. That's all he said. None of them are going to attempt to get their assets back. Mark my words. There will be no attempts with lawyers to stop the seizure of their property because it wasn't seized unless they were guilty. Now, this is the workaround. We don't need the Department of Justice. Isn't that great? The executive...
So we're just paying them to go sit in their offices and just do diddly squat?
155,000 of them haven't done anything in a year.
Do you hear that, you people in the Department of Justice? Out here in America, we know you're not doing your job. And if you are doing your job, you need to demonstrate it to us in a very meaningful and obvious way.
Sessions should have made public the continuing, because it was never closed, case against the Clinton, the continuing case and cover-up against the emails of Hillary Clinton, the continuing, and when Mike Huckabee, by the way, in the news yesterday came out and he was upset saying either Jeff Sessions does something about the espionage of Huma Abedin and Anthony
This is
Weiner.
outrageous.
There is no trial necessary.
She's all connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, and she's taking our classified emails from Hillary Clinton and distributing them to her pedophile husband. This is just outrageous.
There is no doubt this is espionage, whether she intended it or not.
Oh, come on.
The same thing with Hillary, whether she intended it or not. It was espionage, and they need to be convicted for that, not just mishandling or the matter, as Loretta Lynch tried to demote it to, and Comey went along with, and Comey gave her exoneration before she was even interviewed, before any of the evidence was collected by corrupt McCabe, by corrupt Bill Presap, by corrupt Peter Strzok. These people should go to jail for treason instead of having Sessions pass them in the hall and pat them on the back and shake their hand. Mueller needs to go to jail for what he's already done. This is an attempt to overthrow a sitting president. It's the same thing that is going on in Iran. It's the same thing that they tried recently with Putin, with the new election, and with what the CIA, the rogue CIA, the CIA, George Soros and his NGOs were all kicked out because they were meddling in the Russian election. Same thing is going on throughout the whole world. And when Trump came in, he saw this. So he has now circumvented them. He went to the source of the worst. Sorry to have to say this. I have to say the truth. Saudi Arabia is the number one source for stealing American females. China is the number one source for human trafficking. So why are we doing business with them? Well, Trump went there, he put his hands on the big global ball and said, I ain't doing business with the Salafists, with the Wahhabists, with Hezbollah, with Hamas. I'm not doing business with any of these highly defined and well-funded terrorist organizations. I'm done with you. That's the reason today, and I love this. This is beautiful because I predicted it yesterday in an audio. When Trump himself, withdrew $255 million, or he's saying he's going to not make the next payment. These are payments Obama set up. Obama paid Pakistan $33 billion. Last year alone, he was paying them $1.1 billion. So Trump said, when he got a hold of it and found out about it, no last payment, no $255 million. And then today he says, no more money at all. We pay Pakistan $33 billion because they extort us because we allowed them to get the nuclear bomb. You see, Obama gave $4.5 billion to North Korea so they could continue their plan after we already caught them trying to make nuclear bombs, so they could create an enrichment plant, so they could create a nuclear bomb. Oh, lo and behold, they now have one. Same thing with Iran, same thing with North Korea. What we're actually seeing is complete lawlessness. When Trump said, I'm coming after all of you, and as he said in his tweet, basically, the long arm of the law of America has no restrictions, and that has been demonstrated before. So everybody's up for grabs, but we know the 13, and if you looked at the list of 13, besides the one we just mentioned, you don't know any of those people. Who's the 39? Those are the ones you know. So all of this speculation and rumors about QAnon and everybody saying that Gitmo has all these new visitors, no, they don't. Gitmo now has ramps for wheelchairs, insinuating...
Oh, listen, QAnon is fun to follow. It gets your brain going. You have to do your own investigation, and that's a good thing. But, we at the American intelligence media, we want facts. We want hardcore evidence.
Well, Trump doesn't even need to convict them now. He simply seizes their assets. And once he seizes or even freezes their assets, then they crumble. And also you find out how corrupt they are at that moment, because then they run to their offshore accounts, they run to their other asset management companies, they run to their LLCs and their all this stuff, and you get to find out where they're going. That's why the plane was called back after a 4-hour flight. That's why we were lied to in the mainstream media about who that person was and what that was about. I tell you what it's about. It's very, very simple. One of the 39 took their bearer bonds from their offshore accounts in either Utah or Wyoming, and they got on a plane under a false identity, which is, we know that to be true. That's the only thing the mainstream, actually kind of a whistleblower told us that, not mainstream media, that the person had used a false identification. That's why they were on the plane successfully. But he was carrying bearer bonds, and I assure you, they were either hundreds of billions of dollars in bearer bonds or even more. And where was he going? He was going to anywhere but America with those bearer bonds. They're going for their offshore accounts. Now, the 39, first off, I'm sorry, the 13, one of the 13 is directly connected to Bill and Hillary Clinton's foundations,
well,
and Frank Giustra.
Also to the Gates foundations, Bill and Melinda, whatever her name is, Gates.
Yes, and the Gates Foundation. So by effect, anyone who does business with those people can also have their assets frozen until they figure it out.
Freeze the Microsoft assets of Bill Gates.
So what happened was Trump came in and he said, look, the deep state is so thick, there's no need for me to fire all 155,000 employees in the Department of Justice, though they all probably deserve it. There's no need to clear out the FBI, though probably a majority of them deserve it. There's no need to clear all these people out. I'm going to clear them out through the back door. So he's been working, as we said from the beginning, with the Intelligence Department of the Treasury. Trump is a Treasury man. He knows how to take down his enemies, stop their credit, stop their flow of money, seize their assets. They will collapse because they're usually fake companies based upon fake valuations, and they have such a slim margin of error with their cash flow that they will... Amazon would collapse if they paid proper postal fees. Listen to me. Google would collapse if we stopped paying them as an NSA weaponized tool against the world. Facebook makes jack in money. They would collapse if the CIA, NSA, stopped using them as the number one PSYOPs experiment weaponization tool. These large companies are paid by the United States government, and you think that's not true, you are missing the boat. AT&T was a monopoly, paid for by the government. So how can Sessions turn on all these people? He's too weak, so Trump went around him. When he wrote the executive order, the 13 people, notice their assets were frozen and seized immediately. Do you think Jeff Sessions was involved in that? No! Jeff Sessions signed he signed the letter demanding that Section 702 of the FISA court be reinstated.
That really blew my mind.
That's when he became my enemy.
That showed me everything about him.
He is just like James Clapper, James like Brennan, like Rogers, and all the other heads of the intelligence communities who know they're surveilling everybody and they won't stop. We all know it. Why won't they stop? The 702, had it been declined, would stop it. And so who do we have? We have Christopher Wright. He's now on my naughty
his
list.
name is Christopher Wray.
Christopher Wray, he signed it.
He's not right. He's wrong.
He's wrong. Christopher wrong. Jeff Sessions signed it. The head of the Office of Director of National Intelligence, Coates signed it. They all signed it. That means they're all criminals. Because the FBI did not turn in one single report. Not one single report during the time that James Comey was supposed to be filing FISA court warrants to surveil anyone with an international connection, which means anyone international who came into this country would have had a FISA court warrant on them. Anybody, any politician, any political figure from another country, and he did not file one, but he surveilled everyone. He needs to go to jail. 702 needs to be closed down. The FISA court needs to be closed down because we are not at war with any nation. And we have already seen in Turkey, in Iran, in anywhere that they want. In China, we can turn off the radical terrorists' connections to the internet overnight. Anonymous did it to 10,000 terrorists in America overnight when they demanded that the NSA do it, and the NSA refused to, so they did it. We can close down all those people. We do not need all that we do in terms of the surveillance and the manipulation and the subliminal controls involved in everything on the internet. Now, it's true they collect it all and then they only target people later, but we don't know who's been targeted.
Now, Thomas, I'm a former Alabama girl from Birmingham and Dothan, Alabama. So when I saw Jeff Sessions up there as Attorney General, I felt a little sentimental because I thought my man from Alabama would be able to hit a home run. And it's taken a lot for me to get to this point, to be so disappointed in him. Now, some people are saying, well, that's okay. Don't worry about it because Michael Horowitz is going to come up and he's going to have a 1,000,000-page report. Well, let me tell you folks, don't hold your Alabama breath for that one. It's going to be 1,000,000 pages full of misdirects, obfuscations, and legal BS.
1.2 million pages, and that was some time ago. How could you collect all that and not indict anyone? How were there no indictments coming immediately from that early reports of the Investigator General instead of demotions and lateral movement within the same organization or out of that organization to protect the people who were the criminals? Michael Horowitz is a criminal. He's protecting criminals, and he's protecting the biggest criminal of all, which is Robert Mueller, who is protecting his bunk buddy, Comey, who's protecting McCabe and Rosenstein. These guys have all been doing this since the early 90s, and it's nothing we should be surprised about. But here is what is actually happening. I doubt Jeff Sessions knows who those 13 people who Trump froze their assets with his executive order. I doubt that Jeff Sessions knows who the 39 are, but I can guarantee you one thing. It's everyone that Trump wants him to investigate. And once your assets are frozen, it is then incumbent upon the Department of Justice to indict and prosecute them. So in other words, the 13 and the 39, how many is that? That's 52. That's pretty funny that it's 52. But anyway, the 52 or so people who are named in the annex and in that executive order are the people that he lined up for that idiot Sessions to then prosecute because he can't seem to prosecute anybody. So I would be shocked, since we know that Hillary and Bill are insinuated through the first 13 and that Frank Giustra would then be insinuated and is probably on the list of the 39. And even if he isn't, I'm sure Peter Monk or Adnan Khashoggi are on that list of 39. And those are the same people in Barrick Gold. Those are the same people who need to go down that are connected to the Clinton fake foundations and initiatives. So,
not to mention the Bushes.
Well, the Bushes are already connected, yes, through Barrick Gold. If Barrick Gold comes up for investigation or anyone on that list of the 39 that I have yet to see are connected to Barrick Gold, then they all go down. All of them. All of them. That means that they will be investigated. So what has happened is Sessions is so friggin' pathetic that Trump had to trump him and write an executive order demanding that 52 people's assets be frozen and then investigated and then prosecuted. Sessions wouldn't do it. Who is Sessions prosecuted besides the gang members? Well, it's kind of hard to miss the gang members. They're all tattooed up with M13 all over their body, you know? It's a little bit hard to miss them.
Something. Oh, the marijuana users are all going to jail. And of course, we've shown, you have to begin to question when you look and you say, why isn't he doing his job? You have to say, who is his master? Now, the closest we found is he is related to Vanguard. We've done pieces on that. I'll put the link below. But he obviously has somebody pulling his strings, and it's not, folks, we the people.
His decision, the most pathetic decision he's made, and one of the only decisions he's made, to try to enforce federal law over state law concerning the use of medical marijuana and or recreational marijuana and or medical hemp, is insane, and he might as well go right on up to Big Pharma and just give them a French kiss.
Yeah.
Bend over and take it like a sodomist
and it's moving us away from states' rights, and that's where we need to get back to. The states need to be determining these laws.
Our states are collapsing. Colorado showed us that in 1 year they can all be saved by bringing marijuana legally into the marketplace.
Well, all the states could be saved if we would stop spending ridiculous amounts of money on the UN and on foreign wars, supporting ISIS, the CIA, the FBI, the corrupt Department of Justice, and the swamp. If we would stop feeding that beast, Americans, we would be so rich, we wouldn't even need to pay taxes.
I would make a list of what I want Sessions to do, but he won't read it. He obviously can't read. He only listens to the devil who's speaking into his ear saying, look, if you want to keep your position, and if you really want your Vanguard investments that are in offshore accounts, like, maybe he has accounts like Mueller has. Mueller is in Mellon Optima. I think it's $15 million you have to get in to even get into that fund, and it gets 38% return a year. Special club, hedge fund, 38% return a year since it was created. Nothing insider trading about that. Only the largest returns of any fund on the face of the earth, and he is their legal representative to this very moment. No collusion there. No conflict of interest there, is there? We're talking about one of the worst criminals investigating the most pathetic witch hunt in American history, while Jeff Sessions stands by doing nothing. Sessions has already demonstrated that when he spoke with those Russians in his capacity as a senator, the conversation was recorded. He's such an idiot, he forgot that. He could have said to them when they accused him of that, instead of recusing himself like an idiot and cutting off both of his legs and his arms so that the president had a useless attorney general. Worse than useless.
Useless he is.
He's worse than useless.
Yes, he is.
He is an enemy.
Diddly squat.
He has now proven himself to be either an enemy or so stupid that he's doing whatever the enemy whispers in his ear. To sign the Section 702 is criminal when he knows...
He did not defend us. No, he didn't. He went with the good old boys and their spying, lying networks.
In other words, he supported the unmasking of Trump when he wants to sign Section 702. He supported the surveillance of Trump's team. He supported President-elect Trump having a regime change supported by the Democratic National Committee, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, Mark Elias, and all of them, which we have more than ample evidence on. He is ignoring that there was an attempt to basically make sure that Donald Trump, president-elect, never came to power. And then once he became the president, he allowed a James Comey to perjure himself 3 times, stating there was no investigation of Trump in public before the Congress. There was a counterintelligence investigation on Trump that Comey was leading and trying to play like he wasn't leading. Sessions is the worst lawyer and the worst law enforcement agent that I have ever seen in history. I don't care that there may be 1,400 sealed indictments. That could be for MS-13 gang members. I don't care about the rumors that we should be giving Sessions more time. He's had more than a time.
Oh, give him more time. He's working for Trump.
If he can't see Huma Abedin is a spy and conducting espionage, consciously or unconsciously, if he can't see that Imran Awan is the real person who breached the DNC, who is Guccifer 2.0, and who released the DCCC's leaked emails and information, John Podesta's emails, Hillary's, and had direct access to all of the codes of Hillary, Podesta, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Donna Brazil, all the DCC members,
and their complicity,
Pelosi, all their computers, all their staff members,
and their complicity with Seth Rich's death. It's so damn obvious.
If Donna Brazil, in her lying, stinking garbage book, which is nothing more than her trying to give her alibi, says that she was terrified to go anywhere near the Seth Rich events or when his family was there or the funeral because she was certain she was going to be shot by Russian snipers just like Seth Rich was, then she needs to go back and look at the fact that she showed up more than anybody. Donna Brazil was the spokesperson for the DNC. She's the one who brought in the expert to help. She was there at all those meetings. She was the public front for that. She wasn't scared she was going to be shot by the Russians, but she did know that Hillary had rigged the election against Bernie. She did know the tricks that George Soros and Eric Schmidt spent $1.5 billion putting on the DNC server to go after and attack voters who weren't Democrats. What is called the Schmidt Plan, or the U.S. Digital Service, which was working for Obama out of the White House. If he didn't notice any of that, then he must be blind, because he was an insider in D.C. He knows all of these things. Sessions knows these things. He knows not to look hard at them, but he certainly knows them. And Trump knows them. He knew them because Bannon told him. He knew them because Flynn told him. These things are all known by Trump. Trump has circumvented the lame duck Department of Justice and FBI, and he's using the Department of Treasury and U.S. Marshals and other agencies, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to blow his plan, because it's absolutely brilliant. He doesn't need them, and he doesn't need courts because the courts are stacked. He's going after international criminals. That's the reason he used the word transnational. Transnationalists are not international. They're also within the United States of America. They're any company that is part of the military-industrial complex that also serves other countries, which is all the transnationalists, all the 35 companies that all interconnect, that own the military-industrial complex, and most everything that you buy in America are the people Trump's going after.
Thomas, well, that was very nice. We spent 26 minutes ranting and raving, but we never like to leave our audios with just yelling. We like to provide some kind of solution, some action items that folks at the other end can do to perhaps remedy this situation. Is there anything that a YouTube listener can do?
Well, yes, you need to have faith in Trump. The reason Trump is putting active military individuals in key positions of intelligence is because they can go to jail for treason without even barely a trial. So he needs to appoint, the Department of Justice Attorney General needs to be an active military lawyer.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
And then the national emergency that has been declared is because the Department of Justice is compromised, the FBI is compromised, and there's a conspiracy against a sitting president. So there now needs to be a reverse military coup, in other words, what we call the Second American Revolution. He needs to put people who put their lives on the line for him in these positions instead of just their offshore accounts. Because it is greed that has driven the people who have led these heads of these intelligence agencies. Simple and plain. You won't find one that hasn't worked for the most corrupt corporations in America. For instance, Comey. Lockheed Martin has their own intelligence agency that is larger than any U.S. governmental intelligence agency. Isn't that interesting? They make planes. He worked for them. He was a major player for Lockheed. What is Lockheed doing? Lockheed is part of the $21 trillion missing from the Pentagon budget that has now been found in off-book accounting. So how much money do you think they paid James Comey to become the head of the FBI, to keep Lockheed Martin's criminal activities out of the news and out of prosecution? How much do you think they paid Mueller for his 11 years of service to cover up 9/11 and to cover up these crimes that we all know about, but nothing is being done? So Trump has done the genius move. He has done the Washington crosses the Delaware move, and with his executive order, he's put all of them on notice, including Jeff Sessions, because if Jeff Sessions is doing insider trading, he's guilty too. If Jeff Sessions has an offshore account that he's been making to make payments, he's guilty too. So we know exactly where to look for Jamie. So it's just a matter of
time. If he's doing these things, he'll go too.
We know exactly where James Comey keeps his money. We know exactly where Robert Mueller keeps his money. It would be nothing for the Treasury Department, who just named 52 of the biggest criminals in the world and froze their accounts or are about to freeze their accounts. The reason they didn't freeze the other 39 is they're letting them run like rats to find out their rat lines, to find out where they're going to hide the money. Same thing they did to Manafort. When Manafort first came under investigation, and he moved that money out of that Cyprus account because it wasn't his. It went to Russian oligarchs, by the way. 3 Russian oligarchs in Ukraine, 3 Russian oligarchs in Russia, and Obama's sanctions should have been illegal because they simply put money in Hunter Biden's pockets and these Ukrainian oligarchs' pockets who paid Manafort, Tony Podesta, and John Podesta. John Podesta has yet to show how he ever divested himself of his power in his company. That's the reason it had to close.
Well,
they're going to say they don't have the records when that is requested.
Yeah, but there's never been an honest media to start drilling down on these things. They just do it, and who's going to, if the Department of Justice isn't going to do anything, the FBI isn't going to do anything, the media doesn't do anything, then they're just running amok.
When Jeff Sessions allowed Rod Rosenstein to allow Robert Mueller to prosecute Rick Gates and Manafort for not filing as foreign agents when Tony Podesta, in the exact same deal, had not filed, but during the investigation of the grand jury impanelment, he was allowed at that moment to file after the fact, both he and his brother John. Isn't that an amazing thing?
Well, they're on the inside club, you know, they get to do these things.
Why did Sessions allow that? Why did Sessions allow Michael Horowitz's fake investigation to go on to simply cover Mueller? It won't end until Mueller's done because it's there as a cover-up for Mueller. That's what we see. That's the only actions that have been taken, is that the criminals in Mueller's investigation have had action taken, which will be the only action taken against them, and that's the reason it was taken, and it was to cover up. I'm sorry, these people need to go to jail. Will they go to jail? Yes, they can go to jail. Here's how they can go to jail.
Well, before you go on that list, again, people in their comment boxes say that, yeah, nobody's ever going to go to jail. I mean, people are disheartened by this because they've seen decades of corruption with nobody going to jail. Oh, Martha Stewart.
Trump declared a national emergency. It doesn't even matter if they go to jail. He's going to take all their assets. They're going to crumble. They're going to die.
They're going to be out in the
We don't
soup
have
kitchens.
to spend years and government money and get in a court that's already rigged. No. He's taking them down from behind the scenes through the U.S. Treasury Intelligence Department. I said this from the beginning. I also said that that's where the original FISA warrants came from, and we still don't know where they came from, even though we had Lindsey Graham say that he says that he's upset because there seems to be some proof that the garbage dossier was used to get the FISA court warrant. No, I don't believe what he says. Until we see that, I don't believe it because no warrant was necessary. Look at the Inspector General's investigation of the FISA court that said they were 1,000% in noncompliance. Who gives a care about a FISA court warrant? That's the reason that the heads of the intelligence community blew it off. They don't care. Comey said he's filed for FISA warrants. Lie. There have been no FISA warrants filed by James Comey the entire time he was the head of the FBI.
They just up and spy on you.
They have absolute spying capacity. And Obama, one of his last deeds was to make sure that the spying was complete when he said the following. He told all agencies, he sent out a notice, gather all evidence on Trump so it doesn't disappear. The next day, you know what he did? He wrote an executive order saying that all collection of the NSA can be shared completely with all the other agencies. In other words, he made unmasking legal for all agencies. In other words, he made the FISA 702, Section 702, completely null and void by an executive order that said, we're going to spy on Trump, we're going to get rid of President-elect Trump. This was after President-elect Trump was elected. And then he ordered the intelligence agencies to do something illegal against a president-elect. And then he allowed full surveillance. This is the man who insisted that James Clapper had to cut back on his surveillance when it was found that he had lied completely and said there was no surveillance of American people going on. He was called back after the Snowden revelations and the whistleblowing and the leaks. And he said, yes, we surveil everyone. Okay. What did Obama do? He says, not only do we surveil everyone, I want all 17 intelligence agencies, all 850,000 people with top secret security clearances to have full access to the president-elect's team and then to the president. You get that? He allows all agencies to spy on the president. This is an executive order. So don't be surprised if there are people named who have given huge amounts of money to the illegal Obama library, presidential library. Don't be surprised when you see the names of some people who are Silicon Valley heroes who are complicit with the U.S. Digital Service, because this is what Trump is going after. Don't be surprised that these people aren't named point blank, that they're named as subsidiaries, because their assets can still be frozen. And as I say, he doesn't need to do an antitrust against Bezos. That would take too long. He simply needs to charge him the proper postal service rate. Amazon would close within a very short period of time. All he has to do is he says, pay your taxes and then I'll talk to you. So with the new tax deal he just created, $2.5 trillion, between $2.5 trillion and $5.5 trillion will be repatriated into this country that were basically taken, the funds were taken out and taxes were not paid. Now, because they're in tax evasion, basically offshore accounts using foreign countries as a shield, he's named all of them. He's going to go after them. He doesn't have to prosecute them. He has to seize their assets. And guess what? No one will actually know their assets were seized because he's using U.S. Marshals working from the Treasury Intelligence Department, one of the only honest groups left. Now, the good news is the war is absolutely raging and Trump is winning. And the beauty of it is you don't want to... Had George Washington said and told everybody what he was about to do when he was going to cross the Delaware, it wouldn't have worked now, would it? You don't know what Trump is doing. And that's what he told you. And he said he's going to use the military. That's what he's done. When he got General Kelly in there, they say the White House is more strapped, more ordered, more disciplined than it's ever been in history. I believe, Mr. Sessions, that as you're walking towards the south of the Capitol building, that's the exit. And that's where you need to go. You need to retire. You need to go out with the cows and only come home in the evening and have a nice little dinner because you are not adequate for this job. You are a career politician, and I'm calling you out. You may not have been a sexual predator, but I assure the world that your association with Vanguard, prisons, your rulings made against marijuana users show that you are in direct collusion, that you are, in fact, in necessity of recusing yourself from everything and simply leaving.